Hello friends, welcome back to Dungeon Design in Zelda. This is an ongoing series, so if you haven't seen the previous episodes yet, feel free to go catch up for some context. But otherwise, let's hop into things. Using the ruby tablet that we obtained at the end of Skyview Temple, we can now create another opening in the cloud barrier and descend into the Eldin region. Eldin Volcano, which is almost certainly Death Mountain itself, houses our next destination. We'll land near the base of the volcano and have to make our way up to the summit. On our way, we'll meet these guys, the Mogmas, who will give out some tips if needed, as well as providing us with these very useful digging mitts, which allow us to dig. Specifically, when you find these patches of soft dirt, you can use the digging mitts to unearth some buried items, such as rupees and other materials. We'll also see our first glimpse of this mysterious Sheikah character along the way, who extends this bridge for us. Thanks! We also learn how to use bomb flowers, including the new rolling mechanic, which is honestly a lot of fun. After what is pretty much more obstacle coursing, we'll find this temple at the summit of the mountain, and we'll overhear these Mogmas talking about how they saw Zelda being taken hostage inside. However, the temple is locked shut, and the key was broken into 5 pieces, so we'll need to explore around the mountain to find those key shards. Dowsing is pretty useful here, I'll admit, but most of these key fragments are pretty close by to the summit. Anyways, once we've assembled them all, we can unlock this great door and enter the dungeon. Welcome to the Earth Temple. No, not that Earth Temple. Though they share the same name, the similarities between the Earth Temple in the Wind Waker and Skyward Sword and there. This temple is not a house for the undead, but rather a lava-filled cavernous structure with incredibly vibrant ornate architecture which celebrates many great spirits and beasts. Truthfully, I was looking forward to talking about this dungeon's architecture due to just how visually stunning and colorful it all is. It feels incredibly inspired, with its depictions of flames, some sort of creature with what appears to be a very literal depiction of a third eye, statues of elephants and lions, snakes which have their backs make up the many walkways of the dungeon, ending off in their faces, as well as the snake heads around the doorways, what look almost like moblin heads and faces, and most prominently, dragons. Dragon symbolism and iconography litter almost every room of this dungeon, and it's pretty fantastic looking. We see these dragon heads spewing lava, several huge dragon sculptures, and artwork depicting great serpentine dragons all over the walls. I can't get enough of the incredible visual design of this place, though these torches look weirdly out of place in my opinion, almost like they were pulled straight out of Wind Waker with these bold outlines and squared off swirling designs, but oh well, whatever. It's one weird out of place thing, not a big deal. Overall though, this place is surprisingly gorgeous. In addition to all of that, it seems like the monsters that have taken up residence in here have done some construction of their own, with these crude structures here and there made from metal sheets and what looks like chain link fence, matching the crudeness of the enemy camps outside. It's easy to overlook, but I like how well these stand in contrast to the ancient temple itself. As was the case with Skyview, there does seem to be something of a disconnect between the dungeon's themes and its actual name. Skyview was a dark, claustrophobic underground ruin being reclaimed by nature, and the Earth Temple is at the summit of a mountain and is a grand structure with incredibly bright, colorful, and robust architecture. Shouldn't it be called the Fire Temple instead? Well, the answer probably lies in the 2 spirit springs at the end of the dungeons. Skyview views was actually open air with a literal view of the sky, while the earth spring at the end of this dungeon is tucked in the back of a cave deep within the earth. But furthermore, Zelda is on some great mission apparently, having to visit the Skyview and Earth temples, playing further into that prophecy from the beginning of the game, as we follow her and venture to these springs of Earth and Sky. These thematic tie-ins to said prophecy also call to mind those two final temples from the Wind Waker, the Earth and Wind Temple, wind being the element closely associated with the sky, which we needed to visit in that game in order to power up the Master Sword. Now here we are again, following behind Zelda, playing right into the words of this ancient verse. I swear I'm going somewhere with all this, and we'll get into more detail about why this is all important later on in the series, I promise. This dungeon isn't particularly large, all things considered. It's about the same size and length as the last temple, but I really feel like Skyward Sword gets very creative with its level design in this dungeon, and ups the ante with the challenge here. First off, it pretty much does away with spelling out its puzzles on stone tablets, instead replacing them with these Magma NPCs. In practice, it's just about the same concept, but they feel so much less out of place since they're playing into the story and they don't really offer that much in the way of actual hints. The combat challenges here get a nice jump up in difficulty as well, introducing us to enemies like the Spooms, who are more of a nuisance than anything, as well as the Zalfos, a staple recurring enemy. They're much quicker than the Bokoblins we've already faced and attack far more aggressively. I love fighting these dudes. Make sure as well to upgrade to a metal shield instead of that flammable wooden one. The music of the Earth Temple is totally my jam. The energetic strumming, the upbeat percussion, and that main tune which has this perfect infusion of mystery, danger, and fun. It perfectly encapsulates this dungeon's design. There's dangerous enemies around every corner. If you misstep, you'll face a fiery death in these pools of lava, and yet you'll spend this dungeon hopping around and rolling about on this giant sphere, doing this goofy balancing act. I love how well the dungeon walks the line between being serious and just having fun, and just how creative it all is. And this theme song plays into that balance perfectly. Let's get into the actual progression. There's this long hallway at the start of the dungeon where we can get used to hopping around platform to platform, introducing us to the way that these platforms can raise and lower with these lava geysers. In this side alcove, we'll find one of the Mogmas here who says that his buddy has gone missing, and reiterates that he also saw Zelda get kidnapped and dragged through here. We can continue hopping our way over to the end of the room where we'll hit a supposed dead end, as the bridge that we need to cross is retracted. There's these ropes connected to gears on the ground on either end of this platform, and cutting each rope lowers the bridge down part of the way, but not completely. The last rope we need to cut is out of reach, so we can use the beetle to fly over and snip it, lowering the bridge completely. This is actually a moment in which the HD version's increased resolution is to the game's benefit. I know graphics aren't everything when talking game design, but in this case it's just literally easier to see this final rope with the increased resolution, aiding in that player conveyance. Okay, crossing over the bridge takes us into the dungeon's central room. We're limited to just this platform when we enter, and right away we'll be confronted by our first Lizalfos. He has this stone shield on one arm, and he'll dodge your attacks and block one angle of his body with the shield. So you'll want to execute your own attacks by swiping in the direction that he leaves exposed. Just watch out because he will come at you and whip you with his tail if you're not quick enough. Examining our surroundings, we'll see the walkway over to the central platform of the room is destroyed. However, there's the remains of a head from one of the giant stone statues here, and it's covered in bomb flowers. So you can use either the beetle or slingshot to combust the bombs, causing the statue to break apart, leaving only a giant eye. We can balance on the stone sphere and traverse the lava this way. Just make sure to let Link recenter himself on the sphere now and then so that you don't fall off. You can roll over these spoons to crush them, which is just hilariously satisfying, everything, and we can look around the room. The first stop that the game sort of funnels you towards is this section of the hallway on the eastern end of the room. I really like that they've intentionally placed this enemy for you to chase after in order to get you to go this way. We'll find here that missing Magma. He'll tell you that he lost his bomb bag in the next room and request your help retrieving it. However, the door into that room is blocked by rocks. You can destroy them by ducking into this fenced off area and rolling a bomb under the fence to the rocks. Through the door, we'll be at the dungeon's mid-boss fight. Wait, mid-boss already? Yep, this time it's a face-off against a pair of Lizalfos. We already battled one in the previous room, so the tactics are the same here, but you know, there's two of them. I'm gonna say now the duo of Lizalfos, the hexagon-shaped platforms, the lava-themed dungeon. It all feels to me like a neat callback to that mid-boss fight from Dodongo's Cavern in Ocarina of Time. Nice. Between the two of them, they're pretty relentless, so if you're having trouble taking them on, you'll want to try to separate them and take them on one at a time. Individually, they're far less of a threat. Otherwise, once they're both defeated, a chest will appear with the dungeon item. Oh, it's that Magma's bomb bag. But it's also the dungeon item, as when we take it back to him, he'll be so grateful that he just lets us keep it. He gives us 5 bombs to start off with as well. The bomb bag is actually pretty neat in this game, as we don't always have to rely on drops to replenish our stock of bombs. This game lets us, for the first time in the series, pluck bomb flowers, then extinguish them and store them in our bomb bag for later. I love that. Okay, we can continue rolling around and exploring the central room. We'll find a destructible wall in this corner of the room, which hides some treasure. And if we make our way to the central platform, we'll see that the main path is inaccessible since the walkway up to it is retracted down, leaving the door on a ledge out of reach. We can bomb this rock on a ledge and head through the door on the western end of the room, where we'll hop over the lava here, fight some bokoblins, and find this chest which contains the dungeon map. Back in the central room, we can explore around some more, and we'll find that there's these 2 push buttons that we can press in with the stone sphere to raise the walkway. However, only one of them is accessible from here, being on the western end of the walkway. The path to the other button is too narrow for us to get to on the sphere. Thankfully, the dungeon just gave us the map, and that's a big hint. By examining it, we can see that there is a hidden path extending out of the eastern wall of the room. And if we roll over there, sure enough, we'll see that the wall is cracked here, a classic Zelda trope, as well as the wall being marked by an X on the map. You can use bombs to destroy the wall, and we'll find this lava-filled corridor that we can roll on through. As we proceed down this hall, we'll come to what appears to be another dead end in the form of this platform blocking the path. But just like before, by checking the map, we'll see another hidden passage and sure enough, a cracked wall that we can bomb and make our way around the dead end. Ooh, a silver rupee. We'll hit another supposed dead end as a gate blocks the path, and just like the one at the start of the dungeon, we can use the beetle to cut the 2 ropes, one on the front side and one on the back, which is accessible through this tunnel. Cutting both opens the gate, so we can roll on through over this precarious narrow section, and we'll come back into the main central room where we can push that switch in to finish raising the walkway. Wonderful. We can head through the now accessible door and we'll be in this room with this long ramp. As we step onto the slope, boulders will drop. You can duck between the gap in the first wave of boulders and rest in this alcove while your stamina refills. You also will need to use said alcove to avoid the second wave of boulders, which don't have any space in between them. Around the corner, we'll find a second ramp, but this time the alcove we'd need to use to avoid the boulders is blocked off by rocks, so you can't head straight up. There's a small hole you'll find at the base of the slope, and by heading through, we can take these stairs up to this balcony overlooking the ramp. You'll want to toss a bomb down onto the ramp so that it rolls down and destroys those rocks. There's this convenient visual indicator of where to aim your throw for. Note the damage to the floor tiles. Now we can try again heading up this second ramp using the alcove that we just unblocked to avoid the boulders just like before. At the top of the ramp, we'll see the boss door. However, it's beneath this huge dragon head statue which is spewing lava out of the mouth, effectively blocking access to the boss door. We don't have have the boss key anyways, so we'll have to press on. There's a small staircase leading onto this ramp, which is actually the body of this other enormous dragon statue. There's a great little set piece here. At the top, we'll find the dragon sculpture, which, like the golden carving from before, is the stand-in for the boss key. Then as we head back, the mouth of the statue will open, dropping this boulder onto the ramp. There's this very Indiana Jones chase sequence as we have to sprint down the ramp and duck out of the way of the boulder. It's brief, but very intense. I like that. After successfully avoiding the boulder, it'll fly off the ramp and into the first dragon statue's mouth, blocking the lava flow. Now we can access the boss door, and as we do, the dragon statue actually swallows that boulder. We can rotate the dragon sculpture to fit the lock and head into the boss room. The boss room is massive, ornate, and empty. It's one of those it's quiet, too quiet moments. We can head up the stairs and we'll find more huge dragon statues, and we'll see that boulder from before trailing through the ribs at the top of the room. Fi will point out that Zelda was definitely held captive here. We can see the chains that were used to restrain her on the floor, but she must have escaped. There's a bunch of bombs and hearts here, so make sure to stock up if you need to, but otherwise we can hop off this ledge and make our way up this huge ramp in the middle of the room. But then we'll see at the top of the room our old pal Girahim. He once again laments at not having captured Zelda, stating how his minions had her before that mysterious figure, that's the Sheikah that we saw before, had let her free. He decides the best way to relieve his stress is to set a monster loose on us and watch us die. Thanks, buddy. Then the mouth of this dragon statue opens and the boulder drops onto the ramp, revealing itself to be the dungeon boss. What a great build up to this boss fight. We get chased by the boulder, we see the boulder rolling around the room, and then it drops and reveals itself. This is Scaldera, the pyroclastic fiend. Scaldera seems to be made of molten magma with a stone carapace, and one big ol' eyeball. You can probably guess his weak point, right? Visually, I guess I'm fine with his design, but it's certainly far from the best this game has to offer. It's not all that inspired in my opinion, but it's a serviceable boss battle all things considered. My biggest issue with this fight is how uninvolved it can all be, which is a shame because there's some great potential here that wasn't tapped into. The arena is this narrow ramp, meaning you're limited with just how much space you have to operate, which would have been cool if there weren't this massive safe zone at the top, which has an endless supply of bombs and a lot of recovery hearts. A lot. As Scaldera rushes towards you at the top of the ramp, you can use bombs to stun him, which causes him to roll to the bottom. Once he's at the bottom, he'll start inhaling to charge up a fire breath attack, but you can use this opportunity to toss a bomb right into his mouth. The explosion will destroy some of his stone shell, leaving his eyeball partially exposed and vulnerable to attack. Strike his eyeball, then repeat the process. The more of his shell you destroy, the less he can hide his eye from you, and the more vulnerable he is. Wow, a Zelda boss where you throw bombs in his mouth and attack his giant eyeball. How original. Man, this could have been a really cool boss fight. There's a lot of potential here with this narrow arena. Think like Super Metroid's Crocomire battle, which is a reverse tug-of-war, making you control your space and force your opponent off the ledge. Something more unique like that could have lent itself to separating this battle from the long list of samey, tropey Zelda bosses. But no. Heck, you barely have to be engaged in this battle, and this narrow arena hardly matters. Scaldera will literally just walk over you and end up rolling back down to the ramp by hitting one of the bomb flowers on the top. Meaning you don't really have to control the space here. You can just stand around at the bottom and wait for him. When he rolls down, he's easy enough to avoid too. This could have been a tense battle, but instead, he's just doing his routine here, and we're just there for it, waiting for him to open his mouth so we can toss a bomb in. Then poking him in the eye. Oh well, I guess not every battle is going to be as engaging and intense as the one-on-one duels with Girahim. After enough hits to his eyeball, he'll go down, and we'll get our heart container as usual. We can head through the door and into the Spirit Spring. We'll find Zelda here with that mysterious Sheikah figure from before. However, this happy reunion is cut short, as they remind Zelda that they have to focus on the task at hand. Zelda apologizes and is ushered through the portal, and this Sheikah character takes a moment to chastise us for taking too long to get here before heading through herself, leaving us here alone. We'll activate the goddess crest here just like before, and we'll receive the amber tablet. And that's the dungeon. The Earth Temple is, above all else, an absolutely fun time set over the backdrop of an incredibly detailed architectural wonder that pays homage to a lot of different folklore. I love the visual design of this place to bits, and I think this ball rolling mechanic is done in just the right dose to be unique and fun, while also not overstaying its welcome. If they had taken it much further, it could have gotten really stale, but they dole it out in just the right dose. While Scaldera is a rather underwhelming boss battle in my opinion, the rest of the level design and combat more than make up for this. My only complaint beyond the boss fight would perhaps be that the dungeon is a little too heavy-handed and generous with the recovery hearts. They are everywhere, between the swaths of heart flowers, the hearts you can dig up with the mitts, and the fairies hidden in the dungeon. It just feels like it's a bit over the top. Maybe they were worried about players taking too much damage from all of the lava, but as long as you're mindful of where you step and make sure to stop to recenter yourself on this sphere periodically, then this shouldn't really be an issue. But I guess you could still argue that we're in the early stages of the game, and having a lot of hearts isn't too intrusive on the overall level design. There's still plenty of other secrets to find, so the entire dungeon is really fun to explore. I think it's the perfect step up the difficulty curve after Skyview Temple, and I just genuinely had a lot of fun playing through this section of the game. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I just want to take a quick moment to thank everybody who supported me on Patreon, particularly those who supported at the cheese tier or higher, which includes Tetra, Brenda, Justin, Callie, Finley, and Grey Mage. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and I will catch you next time. Bye-bye!